We're on part 3 of Maundy Thursday, and we are here to talk about what has happened after they have partaken of the Lord's Supper, or the Passover meal, and then also what happens after Jesus told his disciples that someone's going to betray him. And all of a sudden, what we see happening now is Jesus knows the road that he is walking. He knows where the night is going to end, and he knows what's going to happen. And he begins this wonderful discourse, and we see this long discourse in the book of John that starts somewhere in John 13. And we begin to see Jesus' last words to his disciples. And I think it's important for us to look at the last words that Jesus speaks to his disciples, because some of our favorite words from Christ come in John 13 and following. And so actually, Maundy Thursday, like I just said, it comes from the Latin word mandatum, which means a command. And the reason why it's called that is because it's on this night when Jesus institutes a new command that he gives to his disciples. And he says in verse 34 of chapter 13, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." And so Jesus begins to set the stage at this time after the Passover, after he's told them that someone's going to betray him. He begins to talk about love, and he begins to talk about what that looks like and how people are going to know that they are Jesus' disciples based on how they love other people. Do they care for them? Do they serve other people? Do they wash other people's feet? You see what's happening here? Jesus is building on what is happening. He's giving them a picture. Now he's going to explain the picture. And we see this discourse, this end, I don't want to call it a speech, but this end thing that Jesus is leaving with his disciples. We go to John 14, where Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." We also come into this passage of scripture in John 15, where it talks about Jesus being the true vine. You remember these things? "I am the vine, you are the branches." You remember all these things? These are wonderful words that remind his disciples that everything is about him, and their life is found in him. Without him, there is no hope. And so we also see in this last time that Jesus is with his disciples, he says and gives the promise of the Holy Spirit. And we know that Jesus gives the promise of the Holy Spirit. He tells his disciples that one is coming to you that is better than me. And they're like, "How can anything be better than you?" But Jesus says, "I am going to give you peace, the Holy Spirit. Peace I leave with you." And so we begin to see the introduction of Jesus saying, this is how you're going to go from this point on. And you're going to do it in the power of the Holy Spirit. And so we begin to look at this, and I really just love how Jesus is speaking to his disciples, because they're about to go through the most unsettling, tumultuous time in their life. The one that they had put their hope in, the one that they had put their trust in, is about to die on a cross. And they don't know that, but Jesus does. And Jesus is basically saying to them, when the worst thing happens, take heed. I am still the Messiah. I am going to leave you with comfort. I'm going to leave you with my peace. My peace I give to you. That's also here in John 15. And he says, my joy. I'm going to leave you my joy. Jesus is preparing his disciples to know that no matter what happens in the next few hours, I am still the Messiah. Take heart, trust, lean into what I have taught you so far. And Jesus keeps going, and he keeps talking. And then Jesus ends his time praying for his disciples in the upper room when they're celebrating Passover. It's called the high priestly prayer, where Jesus prays for his disciples that they will take heart and that they will trust in him. And he talks about those that they're going to disciple, and then those that they're going to disciple. And so not only is Jesus praying for his disciples, but Jesus is praying for us in this high priestly prayer that we see at the end, right before they leave the upper room. Jesus is preparing the disciples, and he's also preparing us too. Jesus is reminding us that whatever befalls us, whatever comes our way, it never negates that Jesus is the one who we trust as the payment for our sins. Jesus is the one that we have faith and hope and trust in, no matter what happens. And luckily, luckily is not a word here that I need to use here, but fortunately, God has given us the help of the Holy Spirit, and we are recipients of the Holy Spirit when we trust in Jesus. They finish the prayer in the upper room. They are going to sing a hymn together. Then they're going to leave the upper room, and they're going to go to the Mount of Olives. And we're going to talk about that in our last video. I will see you in a little while.